Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report, your daily source for Black news, views, and opinions. Today is Wednesday, June 22nd, and I'm Mimi Brown.
And I'm Romeo.
I'm Demi Lobo, and on today's report, another day of the January 6 hearings revealing more of how former President Donald Trump worked to overturn the 2020 elections. We're going to have that story, and meanwhile, the mayor of Uvalde says the school where 19 children and 2 teachers were killed nearly a month ago will be demolished, adding that he could not ask survivors to return to the school. Then the woman who claims she was an unwitting getaway driver in the Nipsey Hussle murder was pressed over errors in her testimony yesterday by the lawyer for the man charged with killing the rapper.
Plus, the king of reality TV, Carlos King, joins us talking about the new late night talk series, and comedian D. Ray Davis is also in the building, so we're probably going to get our laugh on. Talk with details about the 7th annual Black Music Honors Celebration. We have all that and so much more. This is Our Voice and Our Truth, so let's get it.
Another day of the January 6 hearings are revealing more about how former President Donald Trump worked to overturn the 2020 elections. Now, state Republican leaders say the Trump campaign pressed them to violate state laws and defy the U.S. Constitution. GOP election officials say Trump himself called them with false allegations of voter fraud. Arizona House Speaker Rusty Bowser says John Eastman, one of the lawyers, pushed him to decertify the electors that verified that Joe Biden had won his state.
His suggestion was that we would do it. And I said, again, I took an oath. For me to take that, to do what you do, would be counter to my oath. I don't recall if it was in that conversation, clearly, that we talked more about the oath. But I said, what would you have me do? And he said, just do it and let the court sort it out. And I said, you're asking me to do something that's never been done in history, the history of the United States. And I'm going to put my state through that without sufficient proof. And that's going to be good enough with me?
All right, Bowser went on to tell the committee that the president's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, admitted to him they had lots of theories of election fraud, but they didn't have the evidence to prove any of it. So this is the 4th day or the 4th of the hearings, the 4th time they've met. They will meet 2 more times, personally involved. So we know that Rudy Giuliani was overseeing some of the calls and some of the things that were going on, but they're saying they were able to prove in the hearing that Trump was actually behind him, pushing all of the fake electors and the fake asking to change the count and all that. Trump was actually had his hand in all of that. And then the other thing that stood out was that there were witnesses. A lot of witnesses came forward and talked about how Trump's lies affected them. And we're going to hear from a black woman in our next story, just in her own words, about how some of his lies affected her life. And we just heard from Bowser there. He is the House representative in Arizona, Rusty Bowser. And he was talking about how his wife and his family, they were protesting outside of his house, and how people were threatening to kill his wife, kill his family. I mean, there were just so many things that the lies had a bigger effect, not just on the people that were actually telling the lies, like the American people, but the people who were protecting democracy, the politicians that Trump was saying they could change the election, who they really couldn't change the election. People were actually going after them individually as well as their families. And so that was something else that we learned last night as well.
You know, what I was wondering about when we started talking about the January 6th hearings in total were, is this going to work? Because I feel like people have tried to sue him before. People have tried to come forward, but he is such a powerhouse and he has so many powerful people around him that he's almost very intimidating in a way that it makes you kind of not want to stand up. So with the January 6th hearings, I was really happy that when they finally came forward with their hearings, that they came forward with some hardcore facts. There's a a tweet that I saw by a lady on Twitter, and she said, "My mother voted for Donald Trump twice. She's finally jumping ship. The January 6 hearings are working." And so that's good to know. People that voted for him twice, his diehard fan base, are finally starting to realize, hey, this is not our guy. He is not for us. He is not for the American people. He has lied time and time and time again. We need to not believe in him. And so, I mean, there we go. This is just an average, everyday citizen right here with a regular tweet, and it's good to know that the hearings are working.
It's good to know that because you think about Trump's popularity at one point was close to 80%. Right now it's down to 50%, which is still a lot. But what it's showing us is life continues to go on. Life continues to happen, right? President Biden has been in that seat for almost 2 years. He's dealing with a lot on his plate. People are beginning to say, hey, you know what? Maybe Trump is not the guy. And as we continue to have all these, I think you said we have 2 more left, Mimi, that we're going to have with this. As we do, the more of this truth comes to surface, and that's the part that we need most of all. We got to let people know that what Trump did was wrong. What he did was set our country back hundreds of years, so we got to continue to push in the right direction.
Absolutely. And Debbie, to your point, I actually really love what you're saying, that actually people are actually paying attention because they're bringing out so much evidence. They're saying so many different things. I know Congressman Adam Schiff, who was a congressman here in California, he played, there was a video, a phone call of him calling in Georgia, getting the electors, trying to overturn the election there, also trying to interfere with the count. And so they're playing the evidence, and they have Trump's own voice saying these things. And so the fact that people are actually, reacting to that and taking heed to that, that makes me feel like maybe there's still hope somewhere.
Exactly. And we're taking a step in the right direction.
Yes, for sure.
So in other news from the committee, a former Georgia election worker testified about the death threats and other harassment she and her mother experienced after both Giuliani and Donald Trump publicly accused them of rigging ballots on the election night. Wandria Shea Moss and her mother, Ruby Freeman, were featured a video where Giuliani called a smoking gun for election fraud at the State Farm Arena in Atlanta. Moss says the men turned their lives upside down and with their lies about carrying suitcases full of ballots for Joe Biden.
I don't want anyone knowing my name. I don't want to go anywhere with my mom because she might yell my name out over the grocery aisle or something. I don't go to the grocery store at all. I haven't been anywhere at all. I've gained about 60 pounds. I just don't do nothing anymore. I don't want to go anywhere. I second guess everything that I do. It's affecting my life in a major way.
Moss is one of the people with John F. Kennedy Profile and Courage Award this year for her job protecting and defending democracy. She and her mother are suing Giuliani, who compared the women to drug dealers. They have also settled a lawsuit with the right-wing One American News Network for defamation. This is a testimony that is so very important. Again, fear of speaking out a lot of times causes a lot of people to not speak up. And, people online are really calling this mother and daughter duo unsung heroes. Yeah.
Just her testimony of what she went through, once again, about the lies. It's one thing to say that Trump actually, the election was stolen, right? But to accuse everyday citizens of things and then have people attack them to where they're afraid to leave their home and afraid to just live their everyday life is inexcusable.
And it just disturbs me, Rudy Giuliani, for him to say those things about them, right? If it wasn't, no one wanted 9/11 to happen. If it would never happen, would he even been this popular? Would he even been the guy that been part of this whole movement right now today? That's the question I bring, because you think about the lives. Their lives have been changed forever. All because this president ran their name through the dirt. Now, normally when the president's speaking to you in a high case, like, it means good things for you. In this particular case, like, she's scared to leave their home. Like, that's horrible news.
You know what's really going to help push this whole thing forward with the January 6th hearing is everyday average American people. Because at the end of the day, actually the beginning of the day, we are the most important people, the citizens of America. And so it's been so much political back and forth that it seems like the only people that have a voice are those who are in high power. And now hearing people, everyday average Americans on Twitter, on the trial, speaking up, making their voice heard, I really feel like that's going to help sway a lot of people into the right direction.
Absolutely.
We'll definitely see. All right, the mayor of Uvalde says the school where 19 children and 2 teachers were killed nearly 1 month ago will be demolished. The mayor says the city could never ask survivors to go back there. Meanwhile, we're learning more about the police response to the mass shooting. During a hearing yesterday, a top law enforcement official called the police response was a complete failure. The director of the Texas Department of Public Safety says there were enough armed police officers to stop the shooting 3 minutes after it began. Instead, the gunman was not confronted for more than an hour. He went on to say at least one of the classroom doors was unlocked the whole time. Conflicts with the claim by District Police Chief Pete Arredondo that he had to wait for the master key before the door could be opened. We continue to hear stories and things about this, and it just hurts your heart. Every time something new, something breaks about Uvalde, you just kind of brace yourself because you feel like you're going to get more bad news just finding out that other lives could have been saved.
Absolutely.
But it's so unfortunate that to realize that one of those doors was actually unlocked and never tried it.
Yeah.
They never tried it.
That's unfortunate, and the fact that 3 minutes.
Right.
They could have stopped it within 3 minutes. I think pointing that out changes everything because they actually waited 1 hour, 14 minutes, and 8 seconds before they went in to help them when they had everything that they needed within 3 minutes. In fact, they found yesterday that they had enough body armor to isolate, distract, and neutralize the subject.
You know, I said that yesterday at the show. Literally, I'm thinking you have all of these people, like you said, with the body armor. Everyone has all these guns. He has one AR-15, or I don't want to quote. He has one gun on him, and you have all these people who have trained their lives to handle a situation like this. And here you drop the ball in this one situation that could have saved so many lives. It's very, and honestly, too, I remember when my car got broken into, and you know, like that violation, you cannot walk into a place that was that violates you in that way. So I am with the people, and I'm happy that the mayor is suggesting this. Move the kids homeschool, but I just don't suggest that school. It needs to be flat.
It's gotta go.
This isn't the first time it's happened with schools in our country, which is so unfortunate. And we're hoping that it's the last time, but we will wait and see what happens in that situation. But even hearing stories where they could have like distracted him by going through the window and shooting that way. Yeah. There was other ways they could have came inside there and maybe stopped this massacre, but they did not. They really dropped the ball on this.
They could have just turned the handle on the door. I mean, how about that?
Yeah. Or a tactical plan. I'm sure there's so many different, we're not in the, the police department here, but I'm sure there are so many other ways that they could have handled that situation.
But just to assume the door was locked without even trying it, it screams amateur.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right, the Senate group, their bipartisan group of lawmakers who have been working on a gun legislation, they are moving closer to a deal. Senators took the first step by advancing the legislation by a vote of 64 to 34 hours after releasing the contents of the bill. 14 Republicans joined all Democrats in backing the bill. Now, Tuesday's vote put senators on track to meet this self-imposed timeline to pass the bill before they leave the House for the 4th of July recess.
A woman who claims that she was an unwitting getaway driver in the Nipsey Hussle murder was pressed over errors in her testimony yesterday by the lawyer for the man charged with killing the rapper. So, on cross-examination, an attorney for Eric Holder focused on errors and discrepancies in Brianita Nicholson's testimony based on the video recovered from the crime scene and her statements to a 2019 grand jury. Video shown in court contradicts Nicholson's testimony that Holder had gotten out of her car and hurried over to Hussle immediately as they pulled into the lot. Now, the video actually shows Holder calmly walking into a hamburger restaurant nearby and minutes later over to the parking lot where the rapper was. Now, lawyers for Holder, they don't deny that their client killed Hussle. They have suggested that there was no premeditation as the first-degree charge requires. That is, of course, but is trying to be proven right now. Was this premeditated? I think the most shocking thing now is we can't say the man accused of shooting Nipsey Hussle, the man allegedly, he has, admitted. Thank you. He has admitted to shooting Nipsey Hussle. So now it has to be, was it premeditated? But we walked through the steps yesterday. Honestly, if you going back to the car, changing your shirt, so many things that happen that at some point You had to have thought about what you're about to do. You grabbing a gun in Brianita's car, her asking you, what are you here to do? And you answering and say, yo, chill, I'm going to go whatever. That's thinking about it. You getting your gun prepared, that is premeditation. So I don't understand. I'm ready for this to be over because we already know what the answer should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I would say this. You think about it when you're looking at it, whether it was premeditated, you know, whether there was some jealousy, some animosity, there was a lot going on. It seemed like there was something going on where he disliked Nipsey Hussle, right? We all saw what happened on the video camera. It was so discouraging. It was so hurtful to see that. We all remember we were on that day because it changed the lives of a lot of people. It shifted the hip-hop community in a major way. So, yes, the sooner we can get through this case, the better. We know it was prolonged due to COVID, but I think the more of the truth comes out, we'll see what's really going on here.
Yeah, and we'll just continue to follow this for you, soulmates. You know, the woman that they are interviewing now that was on The Witness, you know, she, you know, like I said yesterday, so for me in her situation, it's hard for me to, she's testifying because she's been granted immunity. Yeah. And so for me in her case and everything that she's saying, it's still hard for me to kind of feel bad for her in any kind of way. I know that they said the cross-examination on her yesterday was kind of rough, but for me, there's still questions that remain to her character and her credibility, because if you know that someone did something like this, and you know that the entire world is in mourning, and you have the answer that everyone is looking for, and you still do nothing. So for me, I'm still a little suspect of that.
Yeah. Agreed, and we'll see what happens. Right now, I feel like she's fighting for her life, so to speak, right? All right, Georgia gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams is trying to tighten her state's gun laws. Abrams wants to reverse a set of 2014 laws that allow more than leeway for who can carry guns and where they can take them. Georgia lawmakers expanded places where guns can be taken, like bars, churches, and even up to security checkpoints at airports. Abrams says as governor, she will propose universal background checks for private gun sales. Her proposal is the opposite to Governor Brian Kemp, who she is trying to replace in November.
A jury is awarding a woman who accused Bill Cosby of sexual assault in her 1975 case $500,000. The jury found the former actor sexually abused the woman when she was 16 years old at the Playboy Mansion. The jury says Cosby intentionally caused harmful sexual conduct against Judith Huth while she was under the age of 18 at the time. The lawsuit is one of the last remaining legal claims against the 84-year-old actor. Now, Cosby's lawyers agreed he met Huth and her high school friend on a film set in 1975, then took them to the Playboy Mansion for a few days later, but he denies having sex with her.
Meanwhile, a Minnesota judge is rescheduling the state trial of two former Minneapolis cops charged in the death of George Floyd back in October. It was a compromise decision. The state wanted the trial to start this summer. Now, defense attorneys wanted it delayed until next spring so that the two officers that are charged with aiding and abetting former officer Derek Chauvin, who was convicted of killing Floyd in 2020. Judge Peter Cahill initially was going to push the trial to January, but yesterday he decided to move it to October 24th.
Virginia's health commissioner is apologizing for dismissing the role of structural racism in public health. Dr. Colin Green wrote a staff-wide note that said he was fully aware that racism is a factor in public health outcomes in the United States. Green has said invoking racism alienates white people. He also suggested genetic reasons for the disparities of maternal mortality. The apology comes a day after Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin said he was disappointed Green did not effectively communicate the state's health mission.
A black former worker at a Tesla car plant in Northern California is rejecting a $15 million award in his racial discrimination lawsuit against the car maker. Now, lawyers for Owen Diaz, who sued the company in 2017, turned down the judge's award yesterday. A jury in the case originally awarded him $137 million, but the judge in the case slashed it, saying the award was excessive. The latest action opens the door for a new trial. Diaz claims the company did nothing when he complained to them about his co-workers, subjecting him to racial slurs and mistreatment.
The international governing body of swimming votes to restrict transgender athletes from women's competitions. In order to compete in women's swimming, a trans athlete would have to complete their transition before the age of 12. The Federation says it hopes the move will balance inclusivity and ensure no one has an unfair advantage. The new rule means that college swimmer Leah Thomas will not compete in the women's division at the Olympics. Thomas was the first trans athlete to win an NCAA Division I swimming title.
Medical researchers at the University of South Carolina are hoping to enroll 100,000 black people into the medical study to find out if genetics play a role in the health disparities of African Americans in the state. Researchers say black people in the state are some of the most unhealthy people in the country, but the trust factor between some black people and the medical industry may stand in the way of people doing the test. The Tuskegee syphilis study and the story of Henrietta Lacks, whose cells were used in research without her knowledge, could make some people leery of taking part in medical research. Researchers say genetic research is mostly done on white people. That could explain why the development of new medical tools may work better on white Americans.
A Miami-Dade cop is on desk duty while an investigation is underway into a traffic stop he conducted with a black man.
Give me your driver's license, registration,
Listen
and insurance.
closely.
If not, you will not be going to work today. Simple thing, man. This is how you guys get killed out here, man. Registration and insurance.
Say that again.
Gerald St. Nicholas recorded the interaction that happened last week while he says he was driving to work. He posted the confrontation with the officer on his TikTok page. The Miami-Dade Police Interim Director George Perez initiated the investigation after viewing the video. Now, Nicholas, who admits to driving without a seatbelt, says he set the recording up in his car because he is often harassed by police. This was, well, one, I'm glad that he recorded the conversation because no one would believe that the cop said that had he not had video footage. Again, once again, you know, black people, we always have to record what happens to us in order to get some sort of justice. But the cop says he was talking about his seatbelt. He wasn't talking about black people getting killed by the police. I don't believe that, and I don't believe that because the aggression that he showed the man even after he said that. So if he meant your seatbelt, then say, you know what, I'm sorry, I know how that came across, but I didn't mean it like that.
Right.
He continued with the finger pointing in his face and with the aggressive tone, threatening him. If you don't have this, you're not going to make it to work today. So for me, all of that goes along with the words that came out of his mouth. His body language matched that same energy.
Absolutely. You know, but this is not the first time that we've seen this, Mimi. A situation like this. We've seen judges talk about us with open mics. We've seen police officers call us slurs when they think that we're not listening on a hot mic, on a hot radio. But it really, at the end of the day, there is no respect for black bodies because it would show in the way that we are, or the lack thereof, that we would not be killed at such high rates if police officers cared about us, especially white police officers. So again, I'm with you, Mimi. I don't think that I think he's trying to cover it up now, but you said what you said and you meant what you said. At this point, I would respect you more if you stood on how you felt and said, this is how I feel, versus trying to make us seem like we don't hear what we just heard.
No, I definitely. There's two things I took from watching that video. One is, first of all, I wish the young man would have had his seatbelt on because this could have ended differently based on this cop's attitude. Two is, this police officer does not care about his surroundings. He probably knew he was getting videotaped, but he still took this moment to lash out at this young black man to so-called get his point across instead of just saying, hey, next time wear a seatbelt. There's a different way you could have handled this, and he obviously did not do that. We see it. But please, wear your seatbelts out there. Don't take a chance getting pulled over. It's not worth it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
A federal judge is considering lowering the amount of a jury award given to the family of a black man shot and killed by Austin police. In December, a jury found that Austin cop Richard Eagle and Maxwell Johnson used excessive force on 24-year-old Landon Nobles after a chase where they shot him in the back in 2017. The jury recommended that the defendants pay the Nobles family $67 million in damages. After the verdict, Judge Mark Lane called the award wildly excessive. He ordered both sides to come up with a lower amount. The mediation, it failed, and the family filed a lawsuit in 2018 after new evidence proved Nobles did not turn and fire a gun at officers. The judge will rule on any reduction by the end of this month. I mean, honestly, I feel like $67 million is not wildly excessive. You know, what is the price for being shot in the back by a police officer, a person who's supposed to be there to serve and protect you. What is the price of a black body? Because I talk about this all the time. I keep the same energy when we talk about white police officers not caring about black lives. To us, we are literally a number. So $5 million works for some police departments, right? We give you $5 million for your pain and suffering. Move on. $67 million, I think this judge should give them what they're asking for, because it is going to be $67 million is still a lifetime of pain and loss in this family. So there is no amount of number for being shot from a police officer.
You're absolutely right, Demi, and I think that's the key word for this family, because the jury, they ruled that no reasonable officer would have thought that that was reasonable to shoot someone in the back like that. And so they awarded not just him but his family $67 million. And so the way they broke it down is they awarded $7 million to his estate. He had 2 kids. Each of his kids got $20 million, and for his mother, she got $20 million. And so there you go. That's the $67 million. And I honestly love that, because they actually took a man who was a pillar to his family, a father, a son, you know, someone that they depended on, and they took his life.
Yes.
And so the jury wanted to make sure that his family was set up for the rest of the life, and the judge called it not excessive, but wildly excessive. Yeah. So I think there's something there with that judge, honestly.
And I don't know why he's saying it, because it's not coming out of his pocket. It's not coming out of the officer's pocket. We talk about this all the time. So we look at this situation. You cannot put a price on someone's life, all right? And this happens over and over again to people of color. Yes, they got it right. Because like you said, they didn't just take care of him. They could have checked to make sure the whole family is taken care of, hopefully for generations to come.
You know, but what you're right about, Romeo, is that it's not coming out of the judge's pockets, but a lot of times taxpayers have to end up paying some of this money back as well via the police departments. And so the reason why they don't want to give $67 million to one person is because they know that there's going to be there's going to be another incident that happens where a police officer shoots a black person. So it's like, hey, if we say we're going to give away $60 million to this black family, then we got to keep on doing it over and over.
Yeah.